Parents, has this ever happened to you? You're sitting outside with your child, and it is a beautiful day. You're getting really thirsty, so you decide to get up and get some water. As you're getting up, you don't think twice about the candy that you've left on the table with your child. As you're getting the water, you don't realize that your child is secretly trying to stuff her face with the candy outside. When you return to the patio, you see that there are a lot less pieces of candy on the table than before. You get mad at your child as she explains that a rabid squirrel attacked her and took the candy.
So parents, what can you do about this? Well, there's nothing really you can do. I guess impulse control comes with age. That sounds like a really good science experiment. Testing kids on impulse control? I mean, does age really matter? I started with a hypothesis. If the child is older, then they will resist the urge to eat the Skittle. I completed this experiment by following a procedure. Once in the elementary building, I went and asked a homeroom teacher from grades pre-1st to 2nd if I could borrow one of their children for about 3 minutes. Once in a quiet, empty classroom, I would tell the students that I'm going to put a Skittle on the table and that if he or she waited for me to come back, he or she could have 3 more Skittles. I would then set my timer for 1 minute, and after that time was up, I would walk back to see if the Skittle was gone or not. I would then borrow 5 other children from the same grade. I would then repeat through grades 1st and 2nd. For my materials list, I needed 2 bags of Skittles, or at least 96 Skittles, a notepad, and 6 children from each grade, from grades pre-1st to 2nd. I got this idea for this experiment from watching Ape Genius in science class one day. They are comparing a mind of a 4-year-old to the mind of a full-grown ape. Did you know that impulse is a primary response of many disorders, including addiction, ADHD, obsession, compulsive disorder, and even gambling? So, how does impulse control work? Well, impulse occurs when there is a communication between neurons. Electrical signals between the cells in the frontal lobe grow stronger as they learn to control impulses. Many of you may not know the different purposes of the parts of the brain, so I'm going to tell you. Frontal lobe is in charge of problem-solving, reasoning, parts of speech, emotions, and consciousness. The primary motor cortex is in charge of regulating voluntary movement. The parietal lobe is in charge of recognition, movement, and orientation. The occipital lobe is in charge of visual processing. The cerebellum is in charge of timing, balance, and posture. The brainstem is in charge of heart rate, breathing, eating, and sleeping. The temporal lobe is in charge of memory, perception, recognition of auditory stimuli, and speech. Along with testing the different age groups, I tested if the girls or the boys could resist the Skittle longer. It turned out that all of the girls' average time to eat the Skittle was 58 seconds, while the average time for the boys to eat the Skittle was 57 seconds. So that means that through grades pre-1st to 2nd, girls have more resistance than boys. For those of you who didn't remember, my hypothesis was if the child was older, then they would resist the Skittle. Well, that wasn't always the case. Like in my graph. As you can see, the girls and boys in pre-1st resisted longer than the girls and boys in 1st grade. But overall, all 2nd graders resisted the Skittle. I was very shocked to find out that the pre-1sters could resist longer than the boys and the girls from 1st grade. Overall, all 2nd graders did not eat the Skittle. As a matter of fact, these are the only children who ate the Skittle. For my project, I had many discrepancies. For example, Nishka. As you can see, she was about to eat the Skittle when she noticed her reflection in my camera. Also, Roy, who didn't quite understand the directions and ate the Skittle when I walked in the door. Oh yes, who could forget the boy who thought it'd be funny to take a Skittle
and put it in his pocket. Yes, put it in his pocket. In conclusion, I'd like to say thank you for all of those who participated in my video and for all of the elementary kids who participated in my experiment. Thank you! There's no book, no nothing on this. What are you gonna do?
Hi.
Wait, I'm the teacher, never mind.
Play with it. Just kind of absurd. My hypothesis is